비엔나 미술관 안내원 요한의 나레이션으로 영화는 시작됩니다.
Seit 6 Jahren arbeite ich schon im Museum Jugend, arbeitete ich im Musikgeschäft. Es war schön.
브뤼겔의 그림입니다.
Mein liebster Raum ist der Brürigelraum. Angeben zu wollen, kann man sagen, dass es das meistbesuchte Museum überhaupt. Und wenn es mal ruhig ist und man nicht dauernd die Besucher beobachtet, Gemälde schauen und wird, glaube ich, immer wieder etwas Neues. Für mich sind fast alle Gemälde einen Blick, ist noch viel mehr als nur einen.
그러다 어느 날 병원에 있는 사촌을 보러 캐나다에서 온 앤을 만나게 됩니다.
In den Galerien einem bei anderen völlig egal ist, ob man je
며칠 뒤 그녀와 대화를 나눈 요한은 그녀를 돕기로 합니다.
wieder da.
And the best way to get from here.
You do is you get the U3 underground line of the
It's my cousin. That's why I'm here. All in Montreal, where I'm from. She's ill in the hospital. And we were close when we were kids.
If you want me to call her doctors for you, so you know where to find me. Nichts über die Stadt, auch nicht wie lange sie bleiben, sie lange herumgewandert ist und wenig Geld hatte. Ich besorgte ihr eine Jahreskarte für das Museum. Ist es mir schwer gefallen, ihr ein wenig zu, würde ich mir dasselbe wünschen.
앤을 도와 병원에 간 요한은 미술관의 그림들을 묘사해주기 시작합니다.
The paintings have
3 or 4 self-portraits by Rembrandt. It's a very famous later work. His clothes being so poor. He was just poor at the time. Didn't have no money. Be honest about this. And also there's vegetables and plants and fruits, berries and nuts too. Like it made of wheat, cucumber or a pickle for a nose. And to represent summer, fruit with the kids. And also, but he's a bit frightening. It's a withered tree for a body and spring we don't have. Like springtimes in Paris.
Tell her about one of the Christ pictures.
Well, there's this one picture of Christ being baptized, St. John, of course. Incredibly blue river, and the river is winding around that withered rock formation in the beautifully mountainous landscape. Cloud peering down, looking compared to the people below. It's like bluer than I could ever tell.
이제 요한은 자신의 이야기를 하는데 그는 동성애자입니다.
I can barely stand to visit. The way at the Museum of Natural History, to be part of a group that went bird watching. For a while I found friends. My partner, he's long gone. Ah, that's fine. Really.
렘브란트의 자화상입니다. 요한은 앤과 도시를 구경하며 즐거워합니다.
And away. I like Jews that were killed. Es hat mir gut getan, meine Stadt mit neuen Augen zu suchen, sie jemand anderen zu zeigen. Mir wurde bewusst, wie viel Zeit ich sonst zu Hause verbrachte.
A friend who has a
이번에는 앤의 이야기입니다.
like not much to as consignment, but I also work at a little bar just to make money. Told me about the tour manager.
With this like that this big star, and you got contracts and you got ride.
주인공이 아닌 주변 사람을 비추고 까치가 자주 등장하는 것은 브뤼겔적입니다.
People that I don't got the same people here on the corner.
아담과 이브 그림을 보며 그들은 보다 원초적인 대화를 합니다.
I had a boyfriend, and he walked around. I fell so in love with this man, and it was the first time I'd ever. He walked around like he was in a tuxedo, nude.
그리고 이 영화에서 가장 충격적인 장면으로 관람객들이 갑자기 누드가 됩니다. 요한은 미술관에 대해 비판적인 한 대학생과의 대화를 회상합니다.
Dinge, die für Geld einstehen, angehäufte Besitztümer der damaligen Neureichen waren. So, als würde man heute einen Haufen Rolleglaschen oder Flachbildschirme malen. Der Spätkapitalismus den Dingen aufsetzen würde. Ich fragte ihn, warum ständig vom Spätkapitalismus, wie man denn wissen könne, dass es schon so spät schlimmer wäre, wenn das, was wir heute erleben, vielmehr ist er trotzdem darauf auch keine Antwort. Unglücklich über die Eintrittspreise. Eintritt ins Museum frei wäre. Und daran, dass es dort genauso teuer sei, nie beschwerte. Wie es überhaupt angefangen hatte mit den Museen. dass während der Französischen Revolution der Louvre zum Museen für Kunst eröffnet wurde, Privatgemächern der Reichen herumhängen zu lassen.
이제 벼룩시장을 비추면서 박물관의 부장품에 대한 설명이 나오는데
In a tomb, directions for life and the hereafter. The underworld receives the disk of the sun with the following morning in the same way.
아마도 박물관의 대단한 부장품만큼이나 우리의 삶과 죽음도 중요하다는 브뤼겔적 해악 같습니다. 드디어 브뤼겔에 대한 안내가 시작됩니다.
That we like about this painting.
Works of a great master.
That mean the stories they tell in parables and so on?
They carry their time along with them, don't they? Well, like dirt from a turning wheel. So sure just what stories are being told. They may have meant something quite different than now. Speak to us. They don't feel so outdated.
People think of Bruegel and his work when he was alive.
In his day, though he died young and only left us 40 and 50 paintings, weren't shown in museums, as museums didn't exist then. Lived in a restless and often brutal time. Netherlands under Spanish Catholic rule were torn by 80 Years' War. King enraged by the growing dissent, we 100,000 in Flanders then tolerate the heresy. Duke of Alba to crush the spreading rebellion. We known of Bruegel's side in the matter. Drawings burned lest they bring trouble to his family, and a heretic himself. But it is speculation. He was called the peasant Bruegel, and for better and worse, he remained a painter of quaint scenes of peasant life. It said he went so far as to disguise himself as one customs. And it might well be true. Here, in the peasant wedding, detail to detail. Along this diagonal, wedding porridge on a big tray made from an old door frame way, blocked with guests and jealous onlookers, deliberate framing device of a simple green and healthy bride. Tells me she's keeping something to herself. Made of the missing groom, but of Bruegel's relentless accuracy. Tradition held that for at least the first half of such a party. Our less quaint and more radical full depictions of peasant life were hardly common in the day. Can practically be considered documentary about everyday reality in the so-called lower classes, just about facts. It's near the end of Bruegel's life, yet they are so down to earth. They are not sentimental, nor do they judge. One must imagine a time where landscape painting had never really existed in the West. Backdrops for religious events, and an utterly fantastic invention. Landscape, in and of itself, it's due to Italy, and most specifically in Naples. Painting in the open was established. Bruegel, with his respect for everyday events, a familiar world. Here we have the battle between Carnival and Lent, children's games, and the Tower of Babel. Sometimes Bruegel gives us a world made from the union of the fantastic and the real. He made seemingly bizarre, at times disturbing behavior. They are in a sense documentaries as well, rituals and masquerades of his day. If they were happening at the same time, the allegorical and the realistic, in the complexity of our own time. Politicians, corrupt priests, abuse and games that I recognize. What makes the work fresh and relevant.
Most of your modern artists, he wasn't trying to rub our noses in the dirt.
Oh, but in the humanity, yes. Or here, the sick one, over here by that river. Very closely, the small figure, down here by this river.
Very little about his faith.
Surely that he must have been center of this painting.
And it's called The Conversion of St. Paul.
In blue, having fallen off of his horse, the main focus of the painting.
Say it is. After all, it's in...
Being the title, I might argue, featuring this little boy in a helmet. Look at him. And the helmet's so big, it's dropping down to his eyes. Important as all of the army or St. Paul himself.
Of St. Paul, nothing about little boys.
Of Bruegel's crowning habits, and I highly recommend Oren's poem about the painting landscape. What I'm trying to point out is simply the procession to Calvary. Hard to even find in a picture crowded with most of whom don't even spare a glance for the Son of God. Therefore, as a very original artist, a link between the medieval and the modern. This little boy is the center of the turning earth. And
이제 다시 청소년 관람객에 대한 요한의 나레이션입니다.
Über die Kunst lustig machen kann. Manche Gemälde erregen aber sogar ihre Aufmerksamkeit, wirkt wie ein Spuk oder eher noch wie ein Horrorfilm. Museum abgeschlagene Köpfe groß vertreten. Von Kranach ist ganz besonders plastisch. Mindestens 5 andere. Dann interessiert sie natürlich, sobald sie beginnen, Ungewöhnliches ist. Wohl auch aus Nervosität, die selbst für mich wie billige Pornobilder aussehen. Und sehr interessant, die Eindrücke der Leute lesen, als wären wir Aufseher unsichtbar. Können sich die Leute auch sonst solche Dinge ansehen? Immerhin in einem sehr geschätzten Kunstmuseum und sich so viele Pornos anschauen, wie sie wollen. Es fühlt sich für sie anders an. Die Frage nach Preisen und Werten wird auch oft gestellt. Viele der Werke, die als die besten des Museums gelten, in ihrer Zeit wenig oder nicht sie geschaffen haben, sind in Armut gestorben.
화면은 또 주변 사람과 아이를 비춥니다. 틴토레토의 수잔나입니다. 이제 두 사람은 동굴 관광을 합니다. 동굴을 나온 뒤 사촌의 죽음을 알게 됩니다.
I'm terribly sorry.
화면은 박물관의 부장품을 비추다가 연이어 술집에서 춤을 추는 사람들의 모습을 비춥니다.
Found in a tomb to the south of the Pyramid of Khufu in Giza and dates to the Old Kingdom. The headrest is made of a solid base, a support in the form of a fluted column, and the half-moon-shaped headrest itself. Such headrests were not only placed in tombs, but the sleeping person from harm and evil spirits.
교수대 앞에서도 정신없이 춤을 추던 사람을 그린 브뤼겔식 해악 같습니다. 하지만 다음 날 아침 앤의 노랫소리가 쓸쓸합니다.
Won't you say in this world, won't you say
이제 창밖의 일상적인 풍경을 마치 미술관 작품처럼 설명하는 요한의 목소리를 마지막으로 영화는 끝이 납니다.
Her clothes black as pitch to the right at just enough of an incline, for it's cold and snow is just starting to fall before obstacles increase. You wonder what the main subject is. And then there's the grey-white atmosphere which calls taillights of the cars on the left, red and even beautiful. Without turning around and looking down and funny name of Tombstone Land, of the transience of things,